Hello, my name is Trey Thompson, and today I'd like to talk to you about technology and how it controls our lives. Technology has bettered our lives, but it has also taken over our lives in many ways. We are constantly checking social media websites, using our devices to avoid dealing with people, and last thing is we use some sort of technology in our everyday lives. First thing I'd like to talk to you about is social media and the effects that it has on us. How many of you would say that you spend several hours a day on social media sites? Well, there's a research that shows Americans aged 18 to 64 who use social networks say they spend an average of 3.2 hours per day. Do you think that you fall into this category, or do you think your time is a little over?
A little over, maybe?
A little less, probably.
This, in many categories, the reason that this number is so high is because from 18 to 25, their average time spent is almost twice that of a 64-year-old that is using a social network. Now, what is it that drives you to want to go check your social media websites?
Boredom.
Just to stay in contact. Nosy?
Well, there's a research for this that shows that anxiety about not being able to check in is the #1 cause for people to get on social media. They say that they feel lost without being able to see how their friends are doing or be in contact with somebody, even though they see a lot of these people on an everyday basis. Now, some people say that they only use these websites for to keep up with friends that don't necessarily live in the same town and have different families, and they're all over the world. They just want to know what's going on and keep in check. Also with family members that don't necessarily live in the same town. So do you think that this applies to you, that you're above the average like I asked earlier? I know you said you're above average, you said you're below, but how about you, man?
Every 2 or 3 days is fine with me.
Well, many people feel that the social media doesn't control their lives, and they say that they disagree with me because they don't think that it's necessarily a control of their lives, but it's something that it's time consuming, and it keeps them from being bored, it keeps them interested in what's going on. But in reality, if I was to come up to you and take your phone away from you for a single day, you might feel lost or feel like you don't know what's going on. You would find some other means to be able to get onto your social media. And I feel that a lot of people would say that, oh, I could go days, weeks, whatever it is without this, but in reality, as soon as you went 2 hours without it, you'd probably want to do it. So you would tell me one thing, but when you left here, you would go right back to it. Now, some of you might be able to do this for a couple days, a little bit at a time, but then, once again, you would go right back to doing what you wanted to do. So this brings me to my next point. How often do you use your cell phones, computers, things like this to avoid dealing with other people? Would you say you prefer to go online shopping or order food online or do anything other than actually have to go to a business place and deal with a person because you don't have the communication skills that we used to have? Do y'all think that you still have communication skills like people used to have back in the day?
Yeah, communication, but I just don't want to deal with the rude people or crowds or waiting.
See, and I'd rather do it person to person.
How about you, sir?
Depends. I do a lot of ordering of food online, but not the shopping.
Now, many of this, I don't really have any hard evidence, but what I've noticed around different people is older generation people still prefer face-to-face. The younger crowd prefers any possible way to avoid it. Now, there are still some people that like to be involved, but if there's ways to get around it, they find ways to go around these things. Now, do you necessarily think that you can build conversations with people on just not knowing them? Can you walk up to somebody that you don't know and have a conversation with them? Or if somebody gave you somebody's number and told you, hey, can you call this person for me? Would you rather call the person than, hey, let's meet face to face?
Oh yeah, call or text.
I could call them.
Call and text.
So call or text would be more convenient, but this is the number one problem. Now, people say they prefer call rather than text someone. What would you say on this point?
I think a call you could get a lot more conversation in, and text it's harder to tell emotions and feelings, and people take it the wrong way.
Now, there's a research that shows most Americans, but just barely, 53% of them still genuinely prefer to get voice calls rather than text messages. Now, based on what you're saying, yeah, it's better to call somebody if you have something more important to talk about, but for the other purpose, you would rather text them just to keep it simple and not have to put the phone up to your ear. Now, I fall into that category. I'd rather text somebody than call just because I don't like to be on the phone very often. But this brings me to my last thing. Technology we use in our everyday lives, such as televisions, gaming consoles, cell phones, and computers. These things have a huge impact on our lives. Over the last couple of years, we've gotten better TVs, we've gotten better gaming consoles, we've gotten better computers that give us the ability to travel with them and have the Wi-Fi and all that stuff that makes a lot of sense for you to, have it there just in case you need it. Now, a lot of people use these things for, for homework and such, but when you come home, an easy way for you to relax is to simply get on the TV. So how much time a day would you say that you spend on TV, gaming consoles, cell phones, things like that?
Well, I play my workout on my Xbox, and then I have a smart TV, and I do Netflix and Vudu and YouTube and Pandora, so I always use it.
Now, young people spend 7 hours, 38 minutes a day on TV, video games, and computers. Now, for a young person, that's okay. We're going to say about an average of 3 hours for them probably spending time actually doing homework. That leaves 4.5 hours for them to be playing video games with their friends or just watching TV. Now, I know whenever I've had a long day and a stressful day, I like to come home and just watch SportsCenter and relax. And I know that if you told me I couldn't, yeah, I'd be a little lost, but at the end of the day, I could go without it. So, this is my speech, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and